Right, yeah, I was just gonna mention, I was gonna mic on to note that, well, I'll first check the audio to see how it is with the fan. I think we can wait, Ryan. I'm waiting until we have our full in-person attendance so we can maximize the room temperature, and I see Roundy coming in now. So. Yeah, I think if you do want to cut the fan, Rondy's on the way in, so if you want to cut the fan, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Analyst? Yes. All right. All right, so I will call to order this regular meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Citizens Advisory Committee. This is the third Thursday of June, the 16th, 2022 at 5:18 p.m. Will the vice chair please call roll? Here.
Whoops. I'm not sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. We can.
Good, I'm here.
Present.
Here. So we have 2, 4, 6 of us in the room and 1 virtually. Yes.
I need to have 50% in the room for a hybrid that work. And you need to have a forum to take the action.
Yes. Thank you. So we do have a quorum. Thank you. The next item to take care of is the adoption of the agenda, which I will share momentarily. There it is. So the agenda was distributed yesterday with apologies, June 15th, and just shown in the screen share. Are there any objections to adopting the agenda as distributed and shown? All right, seeing none, it is adopted. And we can proceed to approval of the meeting minutes for our first order of business. We have 2 of them. The first is the April 14th joint board and CAC meeting, which was included in the packet. And are there any corrections to those minutes? All right, seeing none, I do have a correction that I would like to make. It appears on page 2 of the document, and it is a remark that I had made. The minutes read, it would not be logical. It would be.
I think we would have corrected. Did I not
Okay.
correct that on it?
I thought it was supposed to be corrected. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not reading it wrong. It would be not be logical to contribute to the study now. Is how it reads from the minutes. And then how it should read is it would only be logical to contribute to the study now if the district also intends to contribute to the installation of the digester. So yes, that is how it reads in the revised version that was included in the packet. So that is the only correction that I have. And now that Paul has arrived, hello, we are checking on approval of the joint board CAC meeting minutes. Do you have any corrections? All right, seeing none, those minutes are approved with the correction. And we can proceed to our second set of minutes, which is for our own CAC regular meeting from April 21st, also included in the packet. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, those are approved as well. That concludes our meeting minutes, and we can go on to reports, starting with the district, if you would, Tom.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just another reminder, this Saturday, the 18th, we are doing a weed wrangle event with MC Iris. They're focusing on the calorie pair, but if we have enough volunteers and time, we'll also ask people to take out any invasive species, other invasive species that they may find at our South Walnut complex. So that's this Saturday, starting at 8:30. District providing gloves and tools for all volunteers, and certainly we be happy to get any help that we can. Also, we will again be at the Monroe County Fair this year. This year, we're combining our booth with Monroe County Soil and Water and Monroe County Stormwater. There's a lot of overlap, between the goals and missions of those agencies. So we thought we'd try to combine our forces, give us more space to work with, and more people to help man that booth. So we're excited for that and see how that goes this year. Let's see, we at the last board meeting, the board did adopt the necessary resolutions for the district to begin accepting waste tires. So beginning July 1st, we will be able to accept waste tires from residential sources at our South Walnut facility in the Household Hazardous Waste Department. At this time, until we figure out how things go, we are limiting customers to 5 tires per visit. We don't want to overwhelm the staff while they're fine tuning the process of how we're going to make this work. And also, as of today, we can take debit and credit cards for payment at the Household Hazardous Waste Department. So, and then lastly, as on your agenda, it is budget season, and we are getting all of that together. It's not going to be a pretty budget cycle this year because of where the economy currently is, and but we'll get it figured out.
Thank you for that report, Tom. Are there any questions?
Yes, and I guess what the fees, the tires, there are, unfortunately, we do have to charge fees for that to accept those. Those fees were one of the resolutions adopted by the board. They will be posted on our website either June 30th or June 30th or July 1st. Didn't want to get that out there too prematurely and have people think we were taking tires too early, but the majority of the tires are going to cost $4 off the rim, $11 on the rim. That would be your car, light truck, SUV, lawnmower, the go-kart tires, things like that. What the vendor terms a mud aggressive tire, which would be an ATV tire or an off-road for an off-road vehicle. Those would be $8 off the rim, $16 on the rim. And bicycle tires will be $2.50 on or off the rim. We're not, the vendor is, that's why they cost more. And the other caveat to that is, we want whole tires. We don't want people bringing us tire shreds or quartered tires. If they have the ability and want to cut the tire to get the rim off and have one cut in it where they can go like that, that's fine. But our vendor wants whole tires, and so we want whole tires. And technically, under the law, tire shreds, quartered tires can be accepted by a disposal facility. The inner tube is fine. That's, yeah.
Sorry.
The inner tube would be fine. Yeah, you don't have to take the tire apart if you bring it to us on the rim and stuff. So.
Any other questions?
Yes, one question. But cyclists definitely go through a lot more interviews and hires. So what if we just had a bunch of
You know, that's not something that's been asked or thought about. I would have to check with the vendor. So, but I can do that and let you know.
Any further questions? Rondi? Okay, thank you for the report, Tom.
Sure.
Okay, so we can proceed on to, well, report from the chair. I actually don't have anything to report for this meeting. But we do have reports from special committees, since we have two of them now. The first will be the IEG, the Implementation and Evaluation Guidance Subcommittee. Are there any committee members present who would like to provide a summary of the meeting that took place? And if not, I do have a few notes. So we had one meeting since our last regular meeting. We discussed the creation of a 5-year plan reporting document. We talked about some American Planning Association best practices for incorporating staff input and feedback into the process. Proposed posting the reports on the website or social media for the district to be able to share with the public at large. And then Director Tom McGlasson here suggested a potential meeting with the staff and CAC subcommittee to discuss the final version of the reporting document. And then we have an initial draft that's pending review at this point before creating a first full draft. So that was from the IEG subcommittee. The second subcommittee is the rebranding. Are there any members present who would like to provide a summary on that?
Well, I do have the I do have the our working document up for that. I lost it. I'm about to try to contribute here. There we go. But we during the subcommittee meeting for rebranding, we mostly formulated some themes to design slogans around, primarily our world, our responsibility, your actions, comma, world and global impacts of connecting, trying to connect individuals to overall responsibility and impact. And it seems to be really an ongoing kind of brainstorming document until our next meeting. But was there anything else from anyone else?
I think that sounds good. And I appreciate that plug too. The working document is in the Dropbox under subcommittees rebranding. If anybody has any thoughts they want to contribute, there are spaces within it. So if you have any thoughts on slogans or anything, you're welcome to add those at any time. And those will be relayed to a media consultant who will be managing the rebranding process once they have been selected. Are there any questions on either of those reports? Great. Then that will bring us on to our new business, since we don't have any special orders or unfinished business. The one listed item is the 2023 budget. There was also a spreadsheet distributed both in the packet and as a separate file that has last year's CAC budget line items and then spaces for making changes for this year's. So I think we can just open the floor to input on the budget as it's proposed or as it was distributed in terms of repeating last year's values. Yes, actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because I have it open and I intended to do exactly that. We'll get there. Okay. So we have. How visible is that? There, okay. So these are all of the line items from the budget. As you can see, well, let's CAC is not in the revenue category. And the
Bake
two,
sale,
what's that?
bake sale.
I'll let somebody else make a motion for that. So we have the two line items that we have both fit in the screen. They are under other services and charges. So we have $500 allocated for travel and $1,000 allocated for training and education. And this is just from last year's budget and is currently the proposition for this coming year's budget. Or I should say, this is actually this current year's budget and the proposals for next year's budget.
$500 travel, buy 2 tanks of gas.
So we can't go very far, but
I would note, along those lines that, and I can't tell you what the rate was changed to, but, the federal government made the unusual step of adjusting the mileage reimbursement rate. They increased it during the year instead of at the first of the year due to current gas prices.
so please, Andy.
Do we have a record of how much we spent last year? Out of this?
That should actually be in the annual report, which I will pull up in just a moment. And there it is. So we spent $127.40 on education and training for the IRC 2021 virtual conference. Sorry, that was this past year. I don't think, to my knowledge, we have any other expenses for this current year.
Do we know if that'll be virtual again this year, Tom?
They did not do one this year.
Oh,
Because I think part of that had to do that they're no longer Indiana Recycling Coalition. They're now Circular Indiana. And they're kind of changing their approach to things. That's not to say that they won't resume doing an annual conference, but they did not do one this year with all the other changes going on. I would let the CAC know that the Association of Indiana Solid Waste Management Districts has an annual conference in October. That registration is not open for yet, but obviously, CAC members would be welcome to attend that if they wanted to.
do we know where that'll be held?
For Benjamin Harrison this year.
Okay. Be nice if we could get as many CAC members to go to that as possible. Do you know generally how much it costs, like between last year?
I know off the top of my head, I'm sorry. It's not that bad. $150 maybe. But don't hold me to that.
Per person?
Yeah,
Okay,
generally a 2-day event. I don't know. They have not finished the agenda, the schedule for this year's event yet.
so it would seem reasonable to just sort of keep the budget as it is to allow for us to go to that, however many we want.
Yeah, at this point, I guess it's up to if anybody has any other values they would like to propose. Now would be the time. Alternatively, we just adopt it as it's proposed. I mean, for the particular conference that you just mentioned, it sounds like that would be ample to send at least half of us if we were able.
I'm having a virtual meeting right now that I realize I have called you, so I take time to call you, real quick.
John, I apologize. I just want to mention that you are unmuted. If you wouldn't mind muting if that wasn't intended for the CAC. But yes, to answer your question. At that point, yeah, depends on if anybody else has any other proposals. If not, now would be a time for a motion to approve the budget as proposed.
I would move that we approve the budget as proposed.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
So before today's meeting, I met with Joe a little bit and I said, there's some ideas that I just like little baby ideas I've had in terms of what I could do with my extra time for helping like initiatives with the Green Business Network. Trying to get more upfront cooperative agreements with sourcing and ensuring that we have plans for how that is actually ultimately disposed within our community, like take single-use takeout materials specifically is what I had in mind. Being that we just talked about it this afternoon, I don't really have a plan or a request for what that would look like, but it seems like it really wouldn't take a whole lot in terms of, I mean, it's all volunteer hours. And as far as supplies, the most I've thought about is something like a brand or a sticker for participating businesses. Is there any interest, or do you think that there's any traction, an idea like that would have, or have a place with the Green Business Network? I'm still really having to go back and look at minutes to really see if it's within the scope, my ideas within the scope of that. That was the first example I thought of, just trying to ensure that, if a business does want to responsibly source their use takeout stuff, just like with composting companies, they're making sure they're getting stuff from like a select list.
Yes.
That we know how to dispose of locally or cheaply.
And so look for like purchasing opportunities for.
Participating businesses that want to participate, that want to say, what we don't want to just bring a bunch of styrofoam into the community and have no way to, no idea what we're going to do with it. Can we get buy-in to prioritize? I think, with the composting, it seems like there's something similar like that I've seen, right?
We only accept things that are ASTM certified or Cedar Grove certified. So yeah, we help work with distributors that are specific that use those products.
Yeah.
So that we can help the big corporate we work with get in on them. So yeah.
Okay, it seems like something that, to bring small businesses into, if we can make it financially feasible and whatever, but it's like I said, it's a very small idea. Since we have this opportunity here, I wanted to bring it up at least, see if there's value for it. I don't see more than like upfront right now, like $50 to $100. I don't know what it takes to get, something like a brand or certification or whatever.
I think
For participating businesses, it gives consumers an option to, I really don't, I despise going to, not knowing what to do with the takeout stuff I bring home,
Yes.
so it's a real frustration, but I'm sure it's a lot of, I know I've talked to a few other people, so it's something we could address. Okay.
I do. Yeah, I think it's an idea worth discussing. I think for the scope of the motion that's on the floor, and particularly if it's in conjunction with the GBN, those would be funds that could be potentially provided by the district without it having to come through a CAC allocated fund, since it would be for a district activity. And I think I just wanted to confirm with you, Tom, that it would be possible to potentially, or how allocations could be made in the future for a CAC activity that aren't budgeted for now.
It certainly is possible. And, one of the things, excuse me, in the big picture of our budget, the CAC is a department, and we move money between departments all the time. Got too much budgeted on the electric line over here, and we didn't do enough quite over here. So and we can do, we could move that money in and out of the CAC budget lines the same way. So, so it's, if you have $1,500 total budgeted and you wind up in the $1,600 range, yeah, we can take money out of a GBN line, or those things can happen. That's very easy to do. And if the cost winds up being, if it's something that takes off and the cost winds up being too great to do something like that, we always have the ability to approach the board and seek an additional appropriation outside of the approved budget.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I think in that case, a decision would not need to be made for the scope of this budgetary request. And that's a conversation that could continue in future meetings.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote for the motion. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so the motion passes. We will submit the budget as proposed for the 2023 budget process. Thank you. So that does conclude the one order of business that we had scheduled. There, we can proceed to return to the agenda. I apologize.
Looks like John might.
Yes, John, please, I see you have a hand raised.
Yeah, when the roll call votes were called, both the attendance in that motion, wasn't able to hear the person calling the roll, so I'm not sure what's wrong. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that not all the speakers are coming through, but I just said yes, because I thought that's about when it was you'd be calling me, so I don't know what's going wrong, but I'm not hearing everybody.
For those in the
John,
room,
can you
please
hear me
make sure
now?
your microphones are on and that you're speaking directly into them.
Okay, let's see, it says,
Sorry about that.
yeah, it looks like mine is on. You're hearing me okay, right?
Yes.
Good.
I can hear
Yes.
you, John. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, sorry about
I,
that.
and then now I can hear you now. Thank you.
Great. I hadn't pushed the button.
Oh,
Got it. Thank you for pointing that out, John. That is an important detail. All right,
yeah, because I want my vote to count, and so thank you.
all right. So there is an item of business I would like to bring up that is once again with respect to attendance, now that we actually have a quorum and that this particular meeting, I think, represented a breaking point in the attendance planning process where it was too down to the wire to be effective. And now that we actually have a quorum following the proposal of using the attendance tracking sheet, what I would like to do is move that we formalize its use and make a hard decision on the meeting being held at, well, at least that we choose a particular time if we disagree with the one that's listed in the forgive me, the planning document I have. Gosh, the attendance planning guide. So presently, the attendance planning guide specifies a 3-day prior to the meeting deadline for planned attendance to be submitted. And what I would like to do is make that a solid deadline and have CEC collective agreement on that deadline so that we know clearly in advance that the meeting will be held or canceled. So I move that we adopt the attendance planning process as a formal process and that meeting cancellation will be based entirely on the values provided in the document within 3 days prior to the start time of the meeting.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Is this going to include time of meeting such as 5:15, 5:30 begin and end times?
I would say yes. So then you're referring to the 3-day, like the deadline for response being with respect to the start time of the
No,
meeting?
no, I'm sorry. I may be thinking something totally different here. I was thinking of the meeting will be held on this day at particular time.
That's all already been established, scheduled and advertised unless you schedule a meeting outside your normal monthly meeting.
Okay.
At the
Yeah.
third Thursday at 5:15, that's done every January and advertised for the full year.
I think I understand the nature of your question. So it's not for scheduling new meetings. This is for indicating if you intend to attend a scheduled meeting so that we can know if there will be sufficient attendees at the scheduled meeting prior to showing up and seeing who's there and having it potentially not be possible to hold it. Does that clarify the nature of the motion?
It clarifies.
Okay,
I have issues, and that's why I was asking.
okay. Is there another method or time window or another adjustment that could be made to make that?
One I think has to be a mental adjustment. I just looked at my phone last night for most all the email stuff as I get, and it doesn't bother me to not look at my email for days or weeks at a time.
And in this particular case, the attendance planning document would be something like, at the end of this meeting, for instance, if you knew you will be able to attend the next one, you can enter it at any time. It doesn't have to be entered at a specific time prior to the meeting. It just has to be entered by the deadline to know who will be attending the meeting.
Well, I've always felt that as a member of the CAC, my intent is to be at every meeting on time, all the time. It's if I'm not, which is irritating to me.
And I think that could be the approach that we use, but I think that the reality is we are routinely barely able to maintain quorum. And actually haven't for the last couple of meetings, and I think a quarter of our meetings last year didn't have quorum. And so that's the interest of knowing attendance in advance so we can cancel the meeting as needed. So that's the nature of the motion and the interest in the use of the document as well. And even last month's meeting was a textbook example of having too many members attending virtually. So we had more than a quorum. We had 3/4 of members attending, but we didn't have the minimum requirement per state law because we didn't plan well in making sure that we met them to hold a meeting. So this would essentially just be a step where everybody indicates their means of attendance so we can know in advance if the meeting should be held or not. So it wouldn't change much, except that we would know 3 days before the meeting that it will be canceled if there aren't enough people indicating that they will be attending. And
Seems fair.
I believe so. I mean, I think it's a reasonable solution for making sure that everyone's collective time is respected and that we're all using it when we come here and that we're not hoping that we will be able to when we get here.
And I would note that if you're really regular, have a very regular schedule, you could enter several months in a row, but then the issue comes up with remembering to go cancel if you find out you can't come. But I think for people whose schedules vary, which it seems like more and more people's schedules vary, it is nice to be able to think about it the week before, confirm with your schedule. But I mean, I wouldn't have a problem seeing that someone said they were coming every month of the year, except if they didn't come and then never went in to update that the week before.
Yeah, and we can agree on whatever method we agree on. It doesn't have to be this very one. This is what I'm moving that we agree on, and this discussion can amend that. If there's anyone who thinks that the timing should be changed or the method should be changed.
Like if someone was unable to, or had a technical difficulty with accessing the spreadsheet online, would it be possible for them just to email you by Monday at 5 before the meeting?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the goal of the document is to minimize the amount of emailing that takes place. But if that's the only or the best way to do so, I think we can add in this, I guess, amend the motion to read that that's a possibility.
Okay. Or how do you feel about that? I mean, because then I think it's almost like if we institutionalize call and response, like the Sunday, like an email goes out. And if you got, dinner or church or whatever you're doing on Sunday, and you can't get to it. And then on Monday you get to it. I mean, still there's an expectation that when the chair calls, everybody responds in some way. I mean, just as a redundancy, I know that adding redundancy, it adds time. And so that's why it's an administrative question too, to ask whether you're comfortable with something like that, or how that duty could be arranged between a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
Actually, yeah, that's a really good suggestion. I think if someone is unable to fill out the form, they should contact the chair, vice chair, and secretary, like in a single message. And then any one of the executives could receive that and then update the table accordingly. So the table would still be up to date.
And the table is also helpful post-meeting. It lets us know who's attending, who isn't. You know, if there is an issue with someone not attending and maybe saying they would and didn't, it makes it really clear of what has happened. Because that's an important part of the new virtual, is that we know exactly who is virtual and when.
Yes. Excellent.
Is there,
Well, I guess that's why I emailed you at 12:30 this morning to let you know I would be here in person.
yes, and I did get that. And again, fortunately, when I
I
was
hope you
conscious.
waited until you woke up.
Yes. Yes, so I think that would that alleviate the difficulty of dealing with access to Dropbox then, if email were also,
I still haven't got Dropbox figured out.
okay. So I do have a standing offer to provide assistance with that to any members who have need issues with Dropbox, because it isn't always straightforward. So that's also a possibility. And I think as long as we can agree on the timing and the means for this motion, that we can move forward and have a plan for canceling or holding meetings going forward.
I'm not sure how to amend a motion, but I might suggest that in light of saying, if you can't use the spreadsheet, email, that be held to the same deadline, so
Yes.
that we would still know. So maybe a new motion could be that we would move forward with the planning and tracking sheet. And if someone is unable to use the tracking sheet, that they abide by the 3-day window via email to the chair, vice chair, and secretary.
I second that.
Yeah, so moved and seconded. That's an amendment for the, well, yeah, amending the motion to read as described. So there's a motion and a second to do my best. Use the attendance planning guide as distributed, while adding the ability to respond by email in lieu of the document when needed, by messaging the committee executives by the same deadline of 3 days, which is, 3 days prior to the meeting start time. I'll let our
Yes.
Secretary finish typing. Okay, is there any discussion or any further discussion?
Okay. Are we voting on the amendment first or the proposal first?
So that would be, to amend. That's a good question. Let's do the amendment first. That's an amendment. So we'll vote on the amendment for it to read as Lily just described. We can get a roll call vote.
Joe Winnia,
Yes.
Randy Cox, yes. John Arnold. John Arnold,
Hello, John.
I think you can proceed.
Sure.
At least for now.
Ryan Conway,
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Edwards. Yes. Lily Kleinline,
Yes.
Andrew Manley,
Yes.
Paul White,
Yes.
try again, John Arnold. That's
So the
majority.
motion, yes, the motion does still pass with a majority. So now, is there any discussion on that? Newly amended motion? All right, seeing none, we can have a roll call vote for the motion
As amended.
as amended. Thank you.
Joe Winnia,
Yes.
Randy Cox, yes. John Arnold. Ryan Conway,
Yeah.
Ryan Edwards. Yes. Lily Kleinline,
Yes.
Andrew Manley,
Yes.
Paul White,
Yes.
motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you all for that. I am aware, Andrew, that you have only 3 minutes remaining on the clock. There is one more item of business that I would like to propose. We have member Morning Wilder, who requested instructions for the resignation process, which I provided, but I have not yet received word if the resignation has been submitted to the board or not. So knowing the intent to resign, but not knowing the status, and thinking about the next meeting in which said members' attendance will still be counted, I would move to recommend Morning Wilder's removal from the CAC to the Board of Directors to cover the case where the letter of resignation is never submitted.
Second,
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Is this something he brought to you
Yes.
so that it's something he desires then? So I would say, yeah, present to the board.
with no hard feelings, because they were a good contributor. to
Right.
CAC.
Indeed, it's just a technical procedure to make sure that there isn't a gap in communications that leads to further quorum issues at the subsequent meeting, which this meeting is another example of. So is there any other discussion? So this motion does take a 2/3 majority to pass, which we do have presently with your attendance, Andrew, which is 8 out of 12 members. Yeah, that'd be 3/4.
You have 7.
1, 2.
No, no, I'm sorry, you do have.
7,
my fault.
yes, provided that John has returned. So seeing no further, or is there any further discussion?
Sorry.
So we would need to have a 2/3 majority, which would be, I think, 2/3 would be 7 out of 12, yes? No, we would need 8 out of 12. So we would need John's vote for it to pass.
The filibuster,
Right.
John filibuster.
John, are you with us? Great if you were.
Well, but Andrew has a prior commitment.
Yeah,
and-
Andrew has to leave. So.
John Arnold, paging John Arnold. John Arnold, Bueller.
I think we can take the vote for the sake of the motion, and then if we'll have a result based on if John returns or not. And we'll let Andrew move on with his intended departure time.
I'm calling my phone, to see if he'll answer.
I hear it.
I think you can go ahead with the vote, Rondi, if you would.
Joania,
Yes.
Ronnie Cox, yes. John Arnold. Brian Conway,
Yes.
Brian Edwards. Yes. Lily Kleinline. Yes. Andrew Manley,
Yes,
Paul White,
Yes, twice.
so we have all 7, we just need.
Right, okay, so that motion does not pass and it will fall to the floor, so there will be no forwarding of requests for removal to the board.
I would just, I have not personally gotten any communication from Morning regarding that, but I will check to see if any of the board members have been contacted by her.
Thank you, Tom. I will continue to reach out between now and the next meeting, so it's still possible that will be taken care of, but I was just trying to be proactive. So that concludes that item. Thank you, Andrew, for your attendance. And take care, that's all right. All right, we are still within new business. We still have 15 minutes remaining within our scheduled meeting time. Are there any other items that members would like to bring forward?
We could talk about Adopt a Road.
Please.
Okay, so yeah, we had our Adopt a Road this past Saturday, and Ryan
Edwards joined me and we had a nice time. She did have another obligation and I didn't feel comfortable walking along the road by myself. Just, I think it's good to have at least a pair of people. So we did what we could in the time we had and we got, how far do you think? Maybe a quarter mile
Yeah,
down and
I think that's.
did both sides about a quarter mile from the stoplight, basically, moving south on South Walnut. So, then I talked with Tom, got instructions to take everything to Dillman Road and took it there and so everything was taken care of.
It's a great way to spend a Saturday morning. But
Thank you for doing it without me this time.
Well, we may have to reschedule another time to do the rest of the stretch.
Yes, thank you both for bringing it up and both of you for forming it.
I think this is the first time I've missed.
Maybe.
we get another one
merits.
scheduled.
Hmm.
We get another one scheduled. We can do that.
Good. Just don't do it on election day.
Did you have any further items to discuss that you wanted to, Ronnie?
That's all. We didn't weigh it or anything like that, so I don't have
Okay.
any statistics, just that we each had a bag of recycling and trash and.
Nothing too
not
dangerous
full,
or.
but Yeah, yeah,
or
no sharps
remarkable.
that we had to mark or anything
Okay.
like that.
Good.
It's good.
That's good, that's ideal. Good to know. That does bring up a good point. Is there interest in having in the agenda a member announcements section in general? Just thinking about the fact that I didn't have a good opportunity for you there and I hadn't remembered it, so there wasn't a natural opportunity for it. Is that something worth adding? That anyone feels? Or was it just sufficient as is? Okay, I think it's sufficient as is. Any other items that anyone would like to bring forward for new business? All right, thank you all. That will bring us to public comment, though I see we have no members of the public present in the room and none in the Zoom. So we will go on to a reminder that our next meeting will be Thursday, July 21st in the same room. And if there's no objection, this meeting will adjourn. All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Tom.